In October 2025, history was rewritten. For a brief, shining moment, Nvidia became the first company to touch a valuation of $5 trillion. To put that number into perspective, that is larger than the entire GDP of France. It is larger than the value of the entire German stock market combined. They have catapulted from a niche gaming hardware company to the very respiratory system of the global economy. Their latest chip, the Blackwell, is so scarce and so valuable that in Silicon Valley, it is practically a currency of its own. Venture capitalists are buying them to attract startups. Governments are hoarding them like strategic oil reserves. It is the gold standard of the AI revolution. But this massive success masks a deadly paradox, a rot at the foundation of their empire. Nvidia's biggest customers, the hyperscalers responsible for nearly 50% of their revenue, are actively building weapons to destroy Nvidia's monopoly. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta. They are tired. They are tired of paying the Nvidia tax, the massive premium Jensen Huang charges for his hardware. They are tired of the shortages that throttle their growth. And most importantly, they are terrified of relying on a single vendor for their existence. So they are quietly mobilizing $1 trillion to build their own custom silicon, creating a civil war within the tech industry. This is not just a story about computer chips. This is the story of the battle for the infrastructure of the human future. And the outcome of this war will decide who controls the intelligence that will run our world. To understand the magnitude of this war, we must first look at the unlikely ruler of this empire, because Nvidia was never supposed to be here. In the late 1990s, Nvidia was 30 days away from bankruptcy. They were a small graphics company fighting for scraps in a crowded market. Jensen Huang, their CEO, had to lay off half his staff. He bet the entire company on a single chip, the Riva 128, just to survive. They survived, but they stayed in their lane, video games. For decades, the GPU, or graphics processing unit, was considered a toy. It was a chip designed for teenage gamers to shoot aliens in high definition or explore vast open worlds. Nobody in Wall Street took it seriously. Intel was the king of the CPU, and that was all that mattered. But Jensen Huang saw something no one else did. He realized that the math used to simulate light and shadow in a video game, linear algebra and matrix multiplication, was the exact same math needed to simulate the physical world. So, in 2006, he made the second biggest bet of his life. He introduced CUDA. CUDA was a coding language that allowed humans to talk to these GPU cores for things other than graphics. He turned the GPU from a toy into a supercomputer. Wall Street hated it. They called it a distraction. Nvidia's stock price stagnated for years, but Jensen kept pouring billions of dollars into R&D, building a platform for a future that didn't exist yet. He was building a cathedral in the desert, hoping that one day the worshippers would come. And then in 2012, the big bang of modern AI happened. Researchers realized that training a neural network requires performing billions of simple calculations simultaneously. It was the exact workload CUDA was built for. The worshippers had finally arrived, and they found that Nvidia was the only church in town. This created a network effect that is almost impossible to break. To switch away from Nvidia, a company doesn't just need a new chip. They need to retrain an entire generation of engineers who have grown up thinking in CUDA. It is a software moat so deep and so wide that competitors drown trying to cross it. It is not just a product, it is an ecosystem. And ecosystems are incredibly hard to kill. However, there is a flaw in Nvidia's armor. A crack in the fortress that the giants of tech have found. Their GPUs are general purpose. They are like a Swiss Army knife. They can do graphics, they can do crypto mining, they can do AI training, and they can do simulation. They are incredible pieces of engineering, but they are inefficient. When you are running $1 trillion data center, general purpose means wasted energy. If you only need to cut a piece of paper, you don't need a Swiss Army knife with a corkscrew and a file. You need a pair of scissors. Enter the ASIC, the Application-Specific Integrated Circuit, a chip designed to do one thing and one thing only: Google saw this coming before anyone else. While the rest of the world was sleeping, Google was secretly building the TPU, the Tensor Processing Unit. In 2016, when Google's AlphaGo defeated the world champion at the game of Go, the world was shocked. But the real secret was under the hood. It wasn't running on Nvidia hardware. It was running on TPUs. This custom silicon allowed Google to invent the Transformer architecture in 2017. The very code that powers ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini today. Google is now on its 7th generation of TPUs called Ironwood. They don't sell these chips. You cannot buy a TPU at a store. They use them to train their own models and power their own search engine. This gives Google a massive strategic independence. If Nvidia raises prices tomorrow, Google can simply print more TPUs. Then there is Amazon Web Services, the backbone of the internet. Amazon approaches this problem with the ruthlessness of a retailer. They operate on razor-thin margins. They realized that paying Nvidia's 70% profit margin was bleeding them dry. So they acquired a startup called Annapurna Labs and built 2 custom chips, Trainium for teaching AI and Inferentia for running it. The math for Amazon is simple, brutal efficiency. They claim their custom chips offer 40 to 50% better price performance than renting an Nvidia GPU. Think about the scale here. When you are spending tens of billions of dollars on compute infrastructure, 40% isn't just a saving, it is billions of dollars. It is the difference between profit and loss. It is the funding for their next big moonshot. But the most dangerous player in this game might be Meta. Mark Zuckerberg is playing a different game entirely. Unlike Google or Amazon, Meta doesn't sell cloud computing. They sell ads. Their goal is to make AI commodity. Meta is spending billions to buy Nvidia chips, yes, but they are also building their own MTIA chips. And more importantly, they are giving away their AI models like Llama for free. This is a scorched earth strategy. By making the software free, Meta destroys the profit margins of companies like OpenAI, but it also puts pressure on the hardware. If the model is free, the only cost left is the electricity to run it. This forces the entire industry to look for cheaper, more efficient chips, which leads them away from Nvidia and towards custom silicon. Zuckerberg is trying to commoditize the very ground Nvidia walks on. And we cannot forget the other chip giant, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, led by Lisa Su, who, coincidentally, is a distant relative of Jensen Huang. AMD is the only other company in the world that can make high-end GPUs. For years, AMD was the underdog, but their new MI300X chip is a monster. It has more memory and more bandwidth than Nvidia's H100. Microsoft and Meta have already announced they are buying it. Why? Because everyone wants a second source. In supply chain logic, relying on one vendor is suicide. Even if AMD's chip is slightly worse, the industry needs it to succeed, just to keep Nvidia from having total power. But building a chip is hard. It takes years of R&D, it takes armies of PhDs. So, who is actually helping these software companies build hardware? There is a shadow winner in this war, a company most people rarely talk about. Broadcom and their rival Marvel are the arms dealers of the Silicon Civil War. They provide the intellectual property, the blueprints, and the networking technology that allows these custom chips to talk to each other. You see, an AI supercomputer isn't just one chip. It is 100,000 chips acting as one brain. The wiring between them, the interconnect, is just as important as the chip itself. If the chips can't talk to each other fast enough, the whole system stalls. Broadcom is the master of this connectivity. They are helping Google build TPUs. They are helping Meta build their MTIA chips. And rumor has it, they are working with OpenAI on a dedicated chip for the future. Analysts estimate Broadcom is capturing nearly 80% of this custom ASIC market. While everyone watches the gladiator match in the arena between Nvidia and AMD, Broadcom is quietly selling tickets at the gate. They win no matter who designs the chip. But remember the Moat? CUDA? The hyperscalers know they can't win on hardware alone. They have to break Nvidia's software stranglehold, and they are doing it with open source. For years, developers were trapped, but now a new weapon has emerged: Triton. Developed by OpenAI, Triton is an open-source coding language that acts as a universal translator. Think of it like the Rosetta Stone. It takes the complex commands meant for an AI model and translates them into code that can run on any chip. Whether it's an Nvidia GPU, an AMD chip, or a custom Amazon chip. The goal is to make the hardware invisible. If developers can write code that runs anywhere, Nvidia loses its lock-in. The moment CUDA becomes irrelevant, Nvidia goes from being a monopoly to being a commodity. That is the nightmare scenario for Jensen Huang. That is the one thing that keeps him up at night. And the war is expanding beyond just companies. It is becoming a war of nations. We are entering the era of sovereign AI. Countries like France, Japan, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia have realized that they cannot rely on American tech giants for their national intelligence. They are building their own AI clouds. This creates a massive new market, but also a geopolitical minefield. And at the center of this minefield is China. The US government has effectively banned Nvidia from selling its best chips to China. This has forced massive Chinese giants like Huawei and Alibaba to go underground. They are building their own Ascend chips. They are smuggling Nvidia chips through black markets. And they are investing billions to build a domestic semiconductor supply chain that is immune to US sanctions. If China succeeds in building a rival to Nvidia, the global market splits in two. The Silicon Curtain will descend, dividing the world into two incompatible technology spheres. Yet, beneath all this corporate and geopolitical warfare, there are two physical walls that everyone is about to hit. Walls that no amount of code or money can climb. The first is manufacturing. Whether it is an Nvidia GPU, a Google TPU, or an Amazon Trainium, almost all of them are manufactured by one company on one island. TSMC in Taiwan. This is the single greatest point of failure in the global economy. We have put all our eggs in one basket, and that basket is sitting on one of the most geopolitically tense fault lines on Earth. If a blockade happens, or even a major earthquake, the entire AI economy stops. Overnight. There is no backup. The factories in Arizona and Germany are years away from being ready to take up the slack. The second wall XE is energy. AI chips are hot. They are power hungry. A single query to ChatGPT consumes 10 times the electricity of a Google search. As we move to video generation and autonomous agents, that number explodes. We are entering the gigawatt era. A single AI data center can now consume as much electricity as a small city. We are building digital brains that eat electricity faster than we can generate it. The grid cannot keep up. This is why you see Microsoft paying to reopen the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. This is why Amazon is buying nuclear energy directly from the source. The tech companies are effectively becoming energy companies. It doesn't matter how fast your chip is if you can't plug it in. The constraint on AI scaling in the next decade won't be silicon, it will be the power grid. So where does this leave Nvidia? They built the roads that led us to the age of AI. They are the Roman Empire of silicon. They have the best technology, the best software, and the best vision. Jensen Huang is arguably the greatest CEO of our generation. But history teaches us one thing about empires. They are most vulnerable when their provinces become powerful enough to govern themselves. The hyperscalers have the money, they have the data, and now they have the chips. Nvidia will likely remain the king of the high end for years to come. They will continue to power the frontier models that train the next GPT-5 or GPT-6. But the vast majority of AI workload, the inference, the actual running of the apps on your phone and laptop, will likely move away from them. The market is fragmenting. We are moving from a unipolar world, ruled by Nvidia, to a multipolar world, where every giant has their own weapon. The Silicon Civil War has only just begun. The alliances are shifting. The weapons are being forged, and the winner of this war will determine not just the future of the stock market, but the intelligence of our world. And this is the Moat. Thanks for watching.